Now we're going to learn about Photoshop at the pixel level. But before we do that, we're going to make sure I'm going to keep reinforcing resolution and needing to know how big an image is. So for this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to composite penguins so make it look like they're walking down the street in New York City. And we're pretending this is for a magazine. And so a magazine spread. And so a magazine spread would be 11 by 17. So we need to set up this image as 11 by 17, or at least make sure this image is 11 by 17 at 300 DPI. So we'll go into image size, and this will show us how big our image is. Now, by default, it might even say, I'm not sure if that'll be clicked. It depends on how you had it open last time. But you might open an image and it'll be something like this. And it'll say 72, and this you'd be like, oh, that's big. But remember, this is screen sized. What we need to do is, first of all, we need to make sure we have resample unchecked, because we don't want to change the size of the image. We want to leave it exactly as is and just change that there, and look at this. So it's 12 by 19. That's pretty good. Obviously, it's going to be bigger than 11 by 17, but let's work at size for this one. So I'm going to say, I'm not going to change the size right here. What I'm going to do instead, actually, no, let's just change the size right here. So I'm going to say 11, and now this is not quite 16, so I'll say 17, and change this to just 300. And you notice it's futzing with me because I didn't hit resample. So let's go to resample and let's say 11. Oops, no, I just did it and I couldn't even think of that. So 11.008 17, that's pretty good. If we need it, so I'm going to hit OK, and that'll get the image down. Now, I never want to save right now. I don't want to overwrite that original image and not be able to go back. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as, and I'll call this, I'll say Penguins in New York, right? Whoops, I saved it as a JPEG. I should have saved it as a PSD anyhow, but later on I'll save it as a PSD. There's my dog barking. If you wanted to get it to the exact size, right, we could go to the crop tool. So here's the crop tool. And so instead of ratio, I'm going to say width, height, resolution. And I'll say I want it to be 11 inches by 17 inches. And obviously I typed it in wrong. The width is 17, so I'll just hit this to swap it. And now I could have just put 300 DPI right here, right? Pixels per inch, doesn't really matter. And then just hit this little here, hit enter. And that'll get me now, when I bring up the image size, which the quick key is Command Option I, you'll see we have a perfectly 11 by 17 at 300. Okay, and so I might as well just real quick go to Save As and make this sure this is a Photoshop file, right? Because we're going to need to put everything in this. So that's it. That's setting up our thing. But what about our second image? Our second image, we're going to put the penguins in. So real quickly, I'll go and open up my penguins JPEG, and you'll have these files. And I can look at the image size here. And once again, I'll unclick this and say 300. So I know I can use these penguins at about, because they take up most of the image, probably about 4 inches high. Well, that's kind of hard to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the easy route with this. I'm going to pull this out here, go to my black arrow tool, and just drag them into the setup file. And now I can see, oh, those penguins are pretty much at the exact size I want them. Maybe I'll make them a little smaller, but I'm not going to make them any bigger. If I wanted them bigger, what can I do? I have to find a new penguin image, because this image is not going to work. But remember, we can't make things bigger. So this is perfect. I just drug this in for right now just to check it out and make sure that the area I was interested in works in the setup file for final output. And so I can just go ahead and delete that, and then now we'll move on to working on the penguins.